Most INFJs would consider themselves old souls right from the get-go. Growing up feeling a little wiser in comparison to their chronological age, INFJs tend to feel most like themselves when helping and advising others using their deep insights. But how does this introspective type actually develop their introverted intuitive skills through early childhood into adolescence and adulthood? Welcome back, Psychos. Before we get into today's video, we'd love it if you liked and subscribed to our channel, as well as to click the post notification bell so you never miss a video. Alright, let's jump right into it, starting with Phase 1, INFJ Childhood, ages 1 to 12. The first and most crucial phase of the development of the INFJ personality type is the imagination building years. More specifically, between the ages of 1 to 12, the INFJ child goes through the most vigorous maturing of their introverted intuition. INFJs are led by intuition and gut feelings, yet, as a child, these functions aren't entirely developed yet, ultimately leading them to trust ideas, assumptions, or fears that aren't entirely real. This dominance and development of their most dominant function can seem like ordinary childlike imagination to some. However, for the INFJ, it's much more than that. Through imaginary play, INFJ children may strengthen this function by the creation of imaginary friends and interests in fantasy stories, movies, and characters. Yet, it's not always in a positive manner. In fact, INFJ children also tend to have a difficult time with scary thoughts, imaginary fears, and deep uncertainty early on. However, just like the INFJ adult likes to keep things private, this first phase in an INFJ's developmental years only remains noticeable to their closest friends and family. And even then, if they don't know how to explain it properly, they'll keep their imaginative findings to themselves. Later in this developmental stage, the INFJ begins to introduce their secondary function, extroverted feeling. As they step outside of their own little worlds, the curious INFJ child begins to look outside of themselves for new information and substance for their imagination. By slowly learning to navigate the outside world, these two main functions work together as the INFJ slowly forms and expresses their own judgments. Yet, without the development of their third function, introverted thinking, which allows the developed INFJ a more logical spin on their thoughts and ideas, the INFJ child may end up expressing these newfound judgments in a seemingly close-minded tone. By this time, they become well-equipped to evaluate people's moods and motives, but they're not exactly sure what to do with the information. This can make the INFJ preteen come off as slightly rebellious and opinionated, mostly rooted in feeling overwhelmed by the influx of information, and possibly even disappointment in the world around them. Phase 2, INFJ Adolescence, ages 12 to 20. Through years of primarily perceiving intuitively with the minor influence of extroverted feeling, once the INFJ reaches adolescence and puberty, extroverted feeling heightens in a few crucial ways. Slowly, INFJs begin to understand the importance of their introverted intuition and their ability to pick up on the moods and emotions of others. They start to realize the importance of their empathy and sensitivity when it comes to their deep-set compassion for humanity, and because of that, they may begin to feel a little more extroverted in their overall character. In fact, it's around this time in life that the INFJ truly surprises themselves in their outgoing nature, even when looking back once they reach adulthood. It's also around this time that INFJs begin to open their eyes to the shortcomings of the world around them. They become increasingly sensitive to the injustices of the world and may even turn to volunteer work and charity help in their spare time. During this teenage stage, the INFJ becomes more aware of ways in which they can actively help others by using their maturing introverted thinking function to strategize. This is what often gives INFJs the pull to help or befriend the underdogs and misfits they meet. They may try hard to fit in with the crowd for the sake of socializing, but it's only a short amount of time before they get bored of unoriginality. In fact, once an INFJ has reached the end of this developmental stage, their hesitancy to take things at face value and their need to decode everything allows them to see right through the facets of popularity, which brings us to the self-discovery stage of an INFJ's life, also known as Phase 3, INFJ Early Adulthood, ages 20 to 35. By the time the INFJ has reached their early 20s, they become more independent and less reliant on outer stimulation. Not only do they begin to become their own person, but it's around this time that INFJs develop their boundary-setting skills as they become more critical of their previous people-pleasing habits. Depending on the INFJ, these realizations may happen in their early 20s or later on in their 30s. But when they do happen, the people around the INFJ can definitely be taken by surprise. In fact, once this empathetic type has reached a certain level of maturity, their newfound determination for autonomy can even end up offending the people around them. This is especially true for INFJs that find themselves ending one-sided or emotionally abusive relationships during this time period. Although it's extremely challenging and out of character, once the INFJ realizes the strength and power in their empathetic gifts, they can't help but to take the appropriate measures to protect their energy. However, it's a slippery slope, according to personality-type author Dr. A.J. Drenth, who claims that right around an INFJ's 20s to 30s, they feel unsteadily influenced by their interior function extroverted sensing, which he refers to as the main culprit behind the INFJ's occasional unwise career and relational decision-making around this time. With that being said, at the start of this self-evaluation, most people with the INFJ type can feel seriously unstable or unlike themselves to the point of considering this conscious shift as nothing but a quarter-life crisis. Little do they know, it's just the start of the INFJ's wisest years, but only if they can find the maturity to reach it, leading us right into the final stage of the INFJ cognitive development. Phase number 4, INFJ Adulthood, ages 35 and up. Now, of course, all time frames vary from person to person, and for this final development phase, sometimes it's not reached until much later in life. In fact, some sources say that the more stubborn INFJs never fully engage with this stage in their cognitive evolution. And that's the deeper understanding and integration of their inferior function, extroverted sensing. Like we said, extroverted sensing can be difficult for an INFJ to use to their advantage when they're first getting used to it, because of the influx of information they experience at all times. Although most types end up getting more introverted as they get older, the INFJ can reach a point that they actually get a little unsettled when simply relying on their imagination and day-to-day life. Once this intuitive type is able to actively integrate their extroverted sensing properly, they actually enjoy the company of others in the sense that they don't have the strong independent pull that they once did. At some point, all INFJs long for is to interact with the world around them with the full understanding of their boundaries and energy levels. Aside from socializing, INFJs may feel called to utilize this least dominant function by starting a hobby that requires the use of their hands and creativity. Whether it's an instrument, a new exercise regimen, or a craft of some sort, this perfectionistic type can be met with a newfound sense of detail-oriented sensing. In fact, with extroverted sensing properly in use, the INFJ is able to finally enjoy artistic hobbies with full attentiveness and without the need for constant self-criticisms. This is the point where most INFJs can feel that sense of wholeness within themselves, regardless of certain outer circumstances. Well, that wraps up today's video, Psychos. So, if you're an INFJ yourself, Do these developmental stages sound familiar? Let us know in the comments below. Also, make sure to leave us a like, share this video with your friends, and also subscribe to our channel so that you never miss a video.